Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel for another Star Trek Fleet Command bad crewing video. But first, in this intro, I want to talk about the survey that recently came out a couple days ago. And if you see it, please answer it, if for no other reason than this question right here. Now, I really feel like that territory capture can be a great addition to the game, but it didn't have the smoothest rollout because of how things just seem to be, happening across so many different servers. Well, the alliance hopping that really benefits some alliances to capture territories maybe not be the fairest thing. So this would actually be helping that. And that's the reason they're asking this question in the survey. I'm not telling you which way to vote, but I do want to know what you think. So if you see the survey, don't skip it. Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo! All right, Trekkers, here we go. We're going to start off with a Franklin versus another Franklin. And we haven't done a lot of Franklin videos because honestly, you only see Franklins typically loaded out one way. But this way, we've got a brand new set that includes some officers that we've not seen in some time on this video or just in general. And I gotta say, remember, before we get started, none of this is personal. If you happen to find yourself on this video, it's merely an educational tool. It's for fun, and you're not a bad player. We're all learning. Believe it or not, I've gotten caught with things.
You look like a blueberry.
We all have those days. But anyway, talking about this Franklin, we've got Silverback 93955, who put a very interesting loadout. We're going to talk about why that loadout is not advantageous, really no matter what you're trying to do with your Franklin. Now, the Franklin's not really a PvP ship. I mean, you could use it for that, but because its weapon damage is so low, you can't really use it for anything besides swarm grinding. So having Pan as a captain means you're doing the up to speed, you're trying to do the impulse speed. So in this case, yeah, that does work. However, is that really helping you in the fight? You also got the mistakes were made at the start of each round, 35% chance of applying a self-hull breach for 3 rounds, which would then increase the damage that your opponent did with criticals, but whatever. We know that's part of the self-berserker type thing that they do. But the speed boost on a Franklin, is that really beneficial to you? I don't really see as how. But it is what it is. Now, Keensner, I've never really gone into detail about this before because he doesn't work how some people think he's displayed. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. As soon as I pull up Keensner on the list. What, am I blind? I swear. You know, you do this game so much, and then right there, right in front of me. So now we got Keensner, which is part of the auxiliary controls. So his actual ability is fine-tuning, as long as in the station, increases shield health of the ship by 20%. Now, I know a lot of people will see it displayed as he increases impulse speed, which once again, it feels like that's a theme for Mr. Silverback here, but that doesn't make a lot of sense because we're on a Franklin. So even if that was the case for Keensner, it doesn't make sense based on the ship that we're putting it on. But he doesn't even work that way. That's just one of the many things that's not listed correctly in the game. Is what it is, I guess. So we got 2 officers that are confusing. I mean, at least I understand Pan, like Pan is working, it just doesn't make sense. Then we got 0718, which is computer precision, increases the defense of all officers on the ship by 12% for defense. I mean, that's not a bad, I mean, it works, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you have no officer here using defense and like a Zhou or a Spock. It just doesn't make any sense. And even then, a 12% increase to base is so minuscule. It's really doesn't matter at all. So bad crew number 1. I don't know what to say. We took a lot of time to really go through that one. But moving on to the next one. We've got a Bortas taking down an Enterprise, and I love when my Klingon brethren manage to get one of these kills, but I've got to give a shout out to Orthantis in a negative way. And we've already had this discussion one-on-one, but that Zhou that you see right here, he's not working. If you remember, Zhou, which is a card that I absolutely love, is part of the Section 31 crew, upper hand. As long as the ship has morale, Paul Zhou increases the shield deflection, armor, and dodge of the ship by X%. Mine is 160, as you can see. But no morale is being caused here. Now, he does have full synergy on Yuki, and you can see Yuki working by the amount of shield health remaining on the Enterprise. If you've ever wondered what that looks like, well, if you hit a ship with Yuki, the black part of the shield health is what was removed by Yuki, and the red is what was actually left for like regeneration or whatever. So as you can see, Yuki almost took out the shields completely due to full synergy with Marcus and Zhou, but Zhao's not working. Still, I love the kill of the Enterprise, and let's talk about that Enterprise crew because it's bad. It's not good at all. Now, Carol. So we got weapons expert. Once again, another officer that is mislabeled in terms of her ability is stronger than listed, but still not that great. Increases the weapons damage by 30%. Once again, that's a blah. Not really that big of an increase, but I guess if that's all you've got, it can be effective on your Enterprise. I mean, it works. It's just not the most prudent course of action. Then you've got Arcadi, and we've talked about this, and Hugo has talked about this in the comments. Every time we bring up Arcadi, he has to point out how terrible Arcadi is, and I agree. But this is probably one of the main reasons people wanted him on that Enterprise, or possibly Vanguard wanted him, which is the increase to shields, and then the always enthusiast. Once the shield is depleted, has a 50% chance of inspiring morale. Now, it's kind of counterintuitive to put that on an Enterprise because the point of the Enterprise is to keep the shields up with morale. And I guess you could think about regenning the shields in that situation. I'm not sure what Vanguard has, but I assume Vanguard has a better morale officer than Arcadi. There are several morale officers now that are better than Arcadi. Literally almost every morale officer out is better than Arcadi. Marcus as captain is better than Arcadi. Kirk, TOS Kirk. Let's just say there's enough, okay? There's plenty of options, so that's just not very good. And then we've got Uhura, which we've talked about, works, just not very good. This is a 70% increase to accuracy. It's such a small increase to the base that, yes, it does work, but it's not that helpful. And as you can see, a 1.4 Bortas kills a 2.4 Enterprise, all due to crews and crew selections, where Marcus for the Bortas is helping with shield penetration to overcome that shield deflection of the Enterprise. We've got Yuki with the shield strip. That all is actually working. Now, Yuki's secondary is for Romulan, so that's not working, and Zhao's not working, but at least the officers are doing something. And then the officers for the Enterprise are simply so weak that it gets blown out by the Bortas. So you just don't like to see that. If you get the Enterprise, you're hoping for amazingness. Like in this picture right here, when an Enterprise takes down a Kelvin, you got to give it some love. And that's exactly what happened here. Is this Kelvin was loaded out curiously, though not necessarily poorly, but curiously. Generally, when you got a Kelvin, you expect that to be loaded out as the best ship. So when we see this loadout here with the Enterprise taking it down, it is a little bit of a, what's going on here? Now remember, Marcus is a shield penetration officer. I will be doing a video about all the different, the Charvinic, Marcus, and Kang to explain how all three of them work and how they affect mitigation, because that is their role. But we'll talk about mainly the Merrick and Kirk here. Kirk keeping the shields up for the Enterprise, and Merrick helping take on that Federation ship. Officer-wise, you've got Kang, Mara, and then, I'm sorry, not Kang, Mara, you got Kang Krell, and then Charvinic. And it's almost kind of swapped here. The Charvinic is for taking on battleships primarily because of the armor penetration you get from Charvinic, which this particular battle is not really that helpful. However, maybe this Kelvin was hunting Katingas or Augurs. I don't know. But then the other curious part is running Kang as captain. So we've got Dahar Master at the start of the battle. 80% chance of dealing a hull breach to the opponent for 3 rounds. I don't mind that at all. I really don't. But then you got Blood Oath at the start of the battle. Increases the accuracy by X amount. You see mine is rank 2, so very low. This would be for really focusing on interceptor fights. Fighting other interceptors, which unless the Kelvin's fighting other Kelvins. So we've got like a mixed build here for the Kelvin. Like he's trying to spread it out and hit everything he can. And maybe hit other Kelvins. But then why Char? And then we have Krell. Now, Krell actually helps out a lot for fighting the Enterprise because it's a Federation officer, anti-Federation officer. I'm assuming Dave has one max, but still it's a very curious crew because we're really spreading it out. If it was, Kang, Krell, and then Merrick, I can understand. You're trying to fight other Kelvins maybe. But at the end of the day, it's such a mixed setup that an Enterprise is able to come take you down. So obviously we need to make some slight adjustments, and the basics understanding some of the, not even the basics, the more nuanced, layouts of really, if you're going to lay out a big PvP battle, especially at this level, you've got to be specific in what you're doing. We'll look at one more. There's so many more that were sent, but I'm gonna try to fly through real quickly. We've got a ISS Jelly here. We got another level 40 plus getting destroyed by Rex Thrasher, and he ran with Gorkon, Kang, and Chang. A very curious loadout for a ISS Jelly getting destroyed by a Yuki, Nero, Marcus setup. Now, that Yuki Nero Marcus setup was obviously trying to fight exactly what it hit. It's trying to fight an explorer like an ISS Jelly, and this is a great example of why it did so well. 2.4 taking down a 4.2 because of proper crew loadouts versus, well, curious crew loadouts. So we just saw that Kang does the, accuracy buff, like, yeah, I mean, cool, whatever, but what are you chasing down in an ISS Jelly? You're not fighting Kelvins with it. At least I wouldn't do that. And if you need an ISS to beat a Sally, usually you load up the ISS to take on Augurs, D4s, and, Enterprises. But cool, we'll leave that alone. But then Gorkon, using a hull breach officer, you don't have any synergy to increase his captain's maneuver, so that's really not doing anything for you. And then you require a critical, so you have no critical officer in this build to make this such a powerful loadout. There's nothing here to really make it happen. So we're running into this, yes, these abilities work, but they're not the most logical or efficient loadouts. And then we get Chang, which we've already talked about, is a completely terrible officer. Yes, he works, he just doesn't work very well. And that the weapon he's going to lay still requires the hull breach, which isn't even happening because we have no criticals here. So the only officer that's truly working is Kang. And that Kang doesn't work against the Augur. Because, I mean, he does. He just doesn't work as effectively against the Augur. He does work in changing mitigation, but just not that much. And that is why, because we did not load out a loadout that was a critical build. If you're going to make a critical build with Gorkon, you got to go full critical. You can't go half cocked. You got to go all the way, and you can't just keep splitting things up. The more you level up in this game, the more you have to focus on creating loadouts that aren't diverse. They are specific for certain reasons. You're not going to end up on this video if you crew out a ship with Yuki, Marcus, and, Nero, so like this one here, so that you can run against ISSs and then you lose to a Kelvin. I'm not going to get onto you for that because you loaded out to fight a specific type of ship. But that's why we have to focus on these crews and why we have to, because PvP is becoming such a part of the game with territory capture and everything else. This video ran long, but I want to know what you think, and if you enjoyed it, let me know what you think. Live long and prosper. Stay safe with those Space Cowboys. What happened there? Like my voice just... You dead right, mate. Just like my voice. Love y'all. We'll catch you on the next one. Deuces. That's me.
Remember, Spock doesn't go on the Enterprise. Live long and prosper. All the best.
An even better outro than the intro for the Empire and glory to your house.